Good afternoon, Samish. Today you might have seen I've sent a new worksheet. It comprises of more than 100 questions, right, of the same chapter, and those are from 1988 to 2019 complete NEET syllabus or previous year NEET question. Okay, that I could find. I have put everything in that worksheet from that chapter. So like this, will be doing the worksheets for all the chapters, and after that we'll be proceeding to. I have to see the video still, semester. I was like very busy. So I'll revert to you by today evening. Okay, I'll just look at it and revert to you by evening only. Okay then. So let's start our question here. Just hold on, I'll just open the, you can say, the PDF file. Okay, so let's begin with our discussion. So while doing the discussion only, I'll explain to you the concepts also simultaneously. Okay. So the first question is, a decrease in blood pressure or volume will not cause the release of. Okay. That is the first question. So a decrease in blood pressure or volume will not cause the release of. So the answer to that question will be B. I'll tell you how it will be B. Okay. So what happens is, in kidney you have something known as glomerular filtration rate. Okay, you might have learned this glomerular filtration rate. Okay. Glomerular filtration rate. So glomerular filtration rate is the amount of fluid or the amount of filtrate produced by both the kidneys in 1 minute. Okay, the amount of urine, okay, after the filtrate is reabsorbed, it is produced by both the kidneys. Okay, so that is known as your glomerular filtration rate. And when you have something like, you can say 125 ml per minute, okay, the glomerular filtration rate in case of males, 105 ml per minute in case of female. So that is what you have. So before understanding glomerular filtration rate, we should also understand, and while understanding GFR, okay, so amount of filtrate, you can directly define it as amount of filtrate both the kidneys produce each minute. Okay, so each kidney, if you look at it closely, it contains a surface area of 6 meter square. Okay, 6 meter square of filtration surface. You will say it is 2.3 inches wide. I told you that it has a lot of tubules. Okay, so 6 meter square of surface area. Okay, it is present. Okay, in each kidney. Okay, and the GFR averages an astounding, I told you, 125 ml per minute. This means what? This means that nearly 10% of the fluid delivered to the kidneys by the renal arteries leaves the bloodstream and enters the, you can say, glomerular capsule or Bowman's capsule. So in the course of a single day, you can say the glomeruli, they generate about 180 liters of filtrate. Okay, approximately 70 times the total volume of human blood plasma only. Okay, 180 liter of filtrate is generated. Okay, now how to regulate GFR? So first we'll learn about regulation of GFR, then we can answer this question. Okay, Now GFR can be regulated at three levels. Number one is auto regulation, okay, also known as, you can say, myotonic regulation, that is the regulation by the muscles. Another is the hormonal regulation, another is the neural regulation, okay. Hormonal, muscular, then renal. Three ways your GFR can be regulated, and it is very important to control your blood pressure. So regulation of GFR. For this question, we have the concept of regulation of GFR. So number one is known as auto-regulation or myotonic regulation or myogenic mechanism. Many things are synonymous, you can call it myogenic mechanism. Part number one. Part number two is, you can say, hormonal. Hormonal regulation. This is the most important. Lot of questions are asked from this. And then we have neural regulation. So you must have heard about the NEET result that two students, one Anshika of Delhi and one Aftab, in these two students they scored full marks, 720 out of 720. They didn't miss a single question. Okay, that's a, you can say, spectacular milestone to achieve. Okay, so you can be in that category too if you have that specific grip over concepts. Okay, so let's come to the auto regulation first. Auto regulation is, I told you, it is known as myogenic. Myogenic means we all know that arteries contain muscle. Okay, each artery has three layers. Okay, when we talk about artery, so it has got three layers. Okay. This is tunica adventitia, the outermost layer. This is the middle layer, tunica media. This is the inner layer, okay, tunica intima or interna, means inner layer, and three will be like this. So this is the lumen of the artery from where the blood flows. It is known as the lumen of the artery, and this diameter is subject to change. The arteries can relax, they can constrict. Okay, that is known as vasoconstriction, means vascular or blood vessel constriction. Okay, and other way around, that is known as vasodilation or dilatation sometimes, means relaxation of blood vessels. So if you take an artery, I just explain to you the concept. If you take this artery, suppose this is the diameter, at one time this could be the diameter, at one time this could be the diameter, at one time this could be the diameter, depending upon how much it can contract and relax. Okay, so when we have, if you have studied this equation in physics, principle of continuity, so pressure volume relationship. So the thing is, the volume of the blood stays more or less approximately same. You have 6 to 7 liters or 5 to 6 liters of blood. Okay, that will not change drastically unless you are having a hemolytic shock, you have met with an accident, you have lost a lot of blood. That will not, you can say, reduce. You won't become hypovolemic, means less volume of blood in your system. Okay, so that will in turn give you hypovolemic shock. That is later on when you become a doctor, you will be able to know how to treat it. Okay, so the thing is, volume remains same. Now blood pressure is what? How much is the force exerted by the flow of blood on the walls of the arteries? So if the diameter is more, you have more area. Okay, you have more area, and once you have more area, okay, means that the pressure will be lesser, and lesser area means pressure will be higher. Just like a garden hose pipe, if you squeeze it, you will have a fountain of flow. Same way, if you have extreme vasoconstriction, same blood volume, lesser area, so it will be hitting harder. Okay, it will be putting or exerting more pressure on the walls. So more blood pressure. Okay, that is more blood pressure, less blood pressure. So depending upon that, the blood pressure drugs act. They tend to vasodilate, increase the diameter so that the pressure reduces and the BP will, you can say, subsides. Now, when the GFR is high, what does it mean? That the force exerted by the blood is too much, okay? Means the arteries have vasodilated and still a lot of filtration is happening, okay? So that is causing what? That is causing, means arteries have vasodilated and still GFR is very, very high because the internal blood pressure is high. So a lot of filtration is happening too quick, okay? So what is the end result? The end result is the arteries have vasodilated and still GFR is high, meaning that blood is putting more pressure because heart is pumping with a very, very high force. It is known as inotropy of the heart. Okay, inotropic effect, heart is pumping with a huge force. You can say great stroke volume. Okay. So cardiac output is more, you can say stroke volume into heart rate. So what will happen is, if you have this much threshold limit of vasodilation and this has been reached by the renal arteries, the articulate arteries and all, so in the end they will, what will happen? The muscular region, the tunica media region is the muscle, and the muscle fibers, the actin fibers in the muscle, okay, will get stressed. Okay, so when I'll teach you muscle, I'll teach you the M zone, the H zone, the lighter zone, the darker zone, okay, all those things. So it will get stressed for now, and that stretch will further result, or will, the consequence will be the recoil. Recoil means the stretching has happened, now it will recoil. Recoil means it will constrict. Too much stretching, and now when it recoils, your arteries will constrict. And when arteries will constrict, the amount of volume of blood entering it, you can say, or the entering volume will be reduced further, and that will lead to decrease in the GFR because arteries will not give enough space for the filtration to happen, or the blood to enter to form filtrate. Okay, so that will lead to reduction in GFR if GFR is too much. Okay, because if GFR is too much or too less, both the things will have consequences. If GFR is very, very high or is very, very low, like in that question, so you will be having which question were you talking about? Which question, Samit? Yeah. Good morning, Pratham. Okay, I thought B is the atrial natriuretic factor. Okay, that was a slip of tongue from my end. Okay, don't worry, that was a slip of tongue from my end. That is atrial, it is not the release of, okay, that is atrial natriuretic factor only. Okay, answer number A, that is the slip of tongue. If I had told B, okay, because I was opening on my phone, so it was quite small. A, B, I got confused. So which question do you think the answer was wrong? I don't know which question are you talking about. If you tell me the question number, I have opened on my laptop right now. I can check for you. For better visibility, I have opened on my laptop side by side. On phone, it becomes difficult to view the questions. Okay, you can just send the questions to me. Okay, I'll check it. Okay. Yeah, you can send the questions to me. Because sometimes what happens is there are various NTA sites. Okay, NTA sites also, they do not maintain it properly. That's the biggest problem. Sometimes it happens. Okay, so we have to go with the concept that we have. Okay, many times I have encountered you can even challenge the NEET questions to quote. Sometimes it has happened and the students have won. It's not that NTA is always correct. Okay, in the end, concepts win. Many times it has happened that the students have challenged and the result was, you can say, was in the favor of the student because they were able to produce evidence, okay, and NTA had no clue about it. So that happens, okay. So here, if GFR is too high, what will happen is the filtration rate is too high. If the filtration rate is too high, you may not be able to absorb everything. You may not be able to reabsorb here, okay, reabsorb everything here. And if it is low, you may be able to reabsorb everything, okay. That is again a problem. You may be able to reabsorb everything. So you need again an optimal GFR in order to maintain proper reabsorption. Means whatever is extra in your body, that must be released, and whatever your body needs, Na plus, Cl minus, Mg2 plus, Ca2 plus, all the vitamins, you must be able to reabsorb that. So reabsorption must not be too less. It will be too less if the flow of blood is too high. It will be too much, or it will be too much more if the flow of blood is very less. So that is why GFR must be maintained. Okay, the glomerular filtration rate must be maintained. And for that, the blood flow rate must be maintained. Okay, so this is the myogenic mechanism. Next level of mechanism is the most crucial when you compare GFR. Okay, that is known as the hormonal regulation of GFR. It comes in NEET examination as RAAS system, renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay, renin angiotensin aldosterone system. That is what it is known as. Now, how does it play? Now, tell me, have you been taught this renin angiotensin aldosterone system in your classes in wisdom? Have you been taught RAAS properly? Angiotensinogen, angiotensin 1, ACE enzyme. Then what does angiotensin 2 do? Okay, how is it a vasoconstrictor? Okay, that is very essential. Okay, I'll teach you this thing. So renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay, now the GFR is regulated by this system. Okay, so the release of renin first occurs from the juxtaglomerular complex. Okay, first of all, you will have pre-prorenin, but that is not in your course. In the end, you will be having renin. Okay, RENIN. Okay, so the release of renin will occur from the juxtaglomerular complex. Okay. Now, what is renin? It is an, you can say, a protease enzyme. Protease means protein cleaving enzyme. Very important. Let's learn from the beginning. Protein cleaving enzyme. Okay. Once it is a protein cleaving enzyme, it can cleave. Okay. A specific protein like angiotensinogen. But what kind of protein cleavage is it? Okay. It is an aspartic acid. Okay. Or aspartic acid protease. Aspartic acid protease. Now, what is aspartic acid protease? Now, you will see in case of proteases, they'll call sometimes serine protease, sometimes aspartic acid proteases. Okay. So, if I call something as serine protease, means these are enzymes that cleave peptide bond, that is fine. But in which serine serves as the nucleophilic amino acid at the active site. Same way, in the active site of renin, if aspartic acid is the main amino acid, or aspartate is the main amino acid in the active site of renin, because active site of an enzyme will cleave the substrate or will do any modification to the substrate. You have 6 classes of enzymes. So if it is present in the active site and this one is going for nucleophilic attack, okay, nucleophile on the substrate for the reaction. Okay, this is the key amino acid in its active site. In the active site of any enzyme or of the enzyme renin, that is known as aspartic acid protease. So in NEET examination, you just tick if the question comes renin is an aspartic acid protease. Okay. Once you have learned what is aspartic acid protease, what is renin, now we will learn about what is the work of renin. Why is renin secreted in the first place? Okay, I'm going very basic from the beginning. Why is renin secreted in the first place? Okay. Now there are three triggers for the release of renin by the juxtaglomerular complex, okay, or juxtaglomerular apparatus, the macular densa cells. Okay, what happens is, number one trigger, why is renin secreted? The first question is always why, because without reason you won't secrete anything. Okay, number one is a decrease in blood pressure at the glomerulus. Let me write down the three reasons, then I'll explain it to you one by one. A decrease in blood pressure at the glomerulus, okay, as the result of decrease in blood volume. Decrease in blood volume, you can say. Okay, or that decrease in volume can also happen due to decrease in systemic arterial pressure, or due to some kind of blockage in the renal artery or its branches like segmental artery or articulate artery. So there could be some blockages, stenosis could be there, okay, and the arteries could curve, and then it could have more and more atherosclerosis or plaque development, okay, in the artery. Next is stimulation of juxtaglomerular cells by sympathetic nervous system. This could be number two reason. Stimulation of juxtaglomerular apparatus by a sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic means epinephrine, non-epinephrine. Okay. Sympathetic innervation, I can call it, nerve innervation. They are releasing epinephrine, norepinephrine, or adrenaline, noradrenaline. Okay, that could be the reason number two. Reason number three could be decrease in osmotic concentration, okay, of the tubular fluid. Each I'll explain, don't worry. Decrease in osmotic concentration in the tubular fluid. Tubular fluid at the macula densa. Now come to option number one, not option, reason number one, a decrease in blood pressure at the glomerulus. So if the blood pressure decreases, okay, what will happen is, suppose if the arteries are wide, okay, what you need is, if the arteries are wide enough and blood is flowing, if the blood pressure is too less, what will happen? GFR will become very, very low. Okay, if blood pressure reduces, what will happen? Too much reabsorption will happen. You don't want it to happen, too much reabsorption and fall in GFR. So if blood flow is less, blood pressure is less. So how can I increase the blood pressure? By further reducing the diameter of the capillary so that the blood pressure can be increased. Okay, so this is one of the reasons, because at the end of RAS you will release something known as angiotensin 2, which is a vasoconstrictor. It will constrict the vessel. Okay, it will constrict the vessel, and when vessel is constricted, low GFR low GFR will turn into high GFR. Will turn into high GFR. Okay, because blood pressure will increase, then glomerular filtration rate will increase. Because if I don't want very low blood pressure, because that will slow down the blood flow, okay, and that will reduce GFR, and that will lead to too much reabsorption, which the body doesn't require. Okay, so first reason is if the blood pressure is very less, okay, then renin will be released, which will in the end make angiotensin 2. How it will be produced, I'll explain to you. Just I'm explaining in short right now. It will cause release of angiotensin 2, which will cause vasoconstriction, increase BP, and thereby make GFR return to normal. This is the reason number 1 why it is released. Okay. Reason number 2 why it is released is sympathetic innervation. So suppose you are now running very fast, or you are very scared. Okay. That time your BP will become high. Okay. Due to BP, how does BP become high? Okay. The arteries, okay, they have some receptors. Arterial cells, they will have some transmembrane receptor. They are known as alpha adrenergic receptor. There are specific receptors. They fall under the GPCR category, which are the most predominant receptors in the human body. You have GPCR, you have tyrosine kinase. GPCR is G protein coupled receptor. The details is not given in your course. Okay, so just know it is a GPCR family. It passes the membrane 7 times. Okay, it is also known as serpentine, or you can say heptamembrane. Okay, so it passes the membrane 7 times, 7-time transmembrane, and when you can say adrenaline or epinephrine simply binds to it, okay, it will cause downstream signaling pathway. Okay, CAMP production, protein kinase, that is not in your course again, and that will lead to what? That will lead to, suppose this was the diameter earlier, constriction of the blood vessel. This will become the diameter now. Okay, so this is the constriction again. So when we are running, when we are scared, that time epinephrine is released, fight or flight response, and that also constricts the blood vessel and increases our blood pressure. Again, it's an evolutionary mechanism, because our blood pressure needs to be increased. Why? Because when we are running, because all the, you can say, inotropic effect of the heart increases, and the blood flows with, you can say, immense, you can say, pressure and velocity, and reaches each and every organ. Okay, that is how the body can circumvent that problem, because each and every distal organ, the legs, the arms, they need blood. Okay, so high pressure of blood will be required to reach there, and also one side effect is vasoconstriction, okay, of that phenomenon. That is epinephrine or adrenaline, norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Okay, so that is sympathetic innervation. Next is osmotic imbalance that I told you. Decrease in osmotic concentration of the tubular fluid means that everything is being reabsorbed. So macula densa are a type of cells, okay, which can measure, which can sense. Again, it's a complex, you can say, signaling pathway, way out of your course. How does it measure? But you should know for your NEET course that macula densa can measure Na plus and Cl minus. Okay, so when the classes begin at Wisdom, physical classes of NEET, if I have time, I'll explain to you this also, that how does it measure. It's a great thing, but right now it is out of your course. So macula densa can measure concentration of Na plus Cl plus H2O, means osmolarity. Okay. And if osmolarity decreases, means what? Too much Na plus and Cl minus and other ions are getting reabsorbed, means in the filtrate region you only have water. Okay, too much reabsorption is happening, which is incorrect. Means GFR is too low, blood pressure is too low. Now you need to constrict the blood vessel even further, so that the blood pressure increases and GFR increases and reabsorption will reduce. It is happening excessively here. That is why the osmolarity or you can say the molarity, the normality, whatever you want to check, the osmolarity has reduced or dropped. Okay? It has got dipped because of less solute. All the solutes are being reabsorbed. Okay, that is what is happening, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, too much is also very harmful for the body as too less. In biology, we need to attain optimal concentration. Okay, these are the three reasons why renin will be released. Okay, now after this, what happens is a decrease in GFR will lead to the release of renin by the juxtaglomerular complex. Now renin will convert the inactive plasma protein angiotensinogen, and angiotensinogen is secreted by the liver. Okay? Angiotensinogen is secreted by liver. It is converted by renin. Renin is a protease. It will cleave off some amino acids and it will convert it to angiotensin 1. Okay, it will convert it to angiotensin 1. So that will be the first event. Okay. Now angiotensin 1, when that is produced, okay, when angiotensin 1 is produced, it is then converted into angiotensin 2 by further cleavage. Angiotensin 2 by something known as angiotensin converting enzyme. ACE, or angiotensin 1 converting enzyme ACE1. Okay, so what happens is angiotensin 1 is also inactive but is then converted to angiotensin 2 by angiotensin converting enzyme 1 or ACE1 enzyme. This conversion takes place primarily in the capillaries of the lungs, because the epithelial cells of the lungs, they express ACE1. Just think, epithelial cells of the lungs or the pneumocytes, the alveoli, type 2 pneumocytes, they express ACE1 enzyme. Okay, this happened in the lungs, capillaries of lungs. Okay, very important thing. Angiotensin 1 is secreted by lungs, angiotensinogen is secreted by liver, renin is secreted by the juxtaglomerular apparatus or juxtaglomerular cells. These are the three questions that are also present in this worksheet. Okay. Now, angiotensin 2, once it has been produced, it is a potent vasoconstrictor. Okay, it will produce constriction of the blood vessel. Okay, number one is it will bind to angiotensin receptor. Okay, 81 receptor found in the endothelium of the arterioles throughout the circulation to achieve vasoconstriction. Okay, so we have endothelial cells here. Angiotensin 2 will bind, and the things that I was explaining to you, vasoconstriction, it will cause vasoconstriction. Okay, this angiotensin 2, a potent vasoconstrictor. Vasoconstriction and rise in blood pressure, that will be caused by angiotensin 2. So if a person is hypertensive or is suffering from BP, okay, BP problems, what do you think is, what will happen is, how can you treat someone's BP? Okay, so the way you can control someone's BP is, You can think of it as you can either inhibit this enzyme, okay, inhibit renin, because if you inhibit renin, this entire thing will not be formed and BP will be reduced. Because a person is having high BP, suppose chronic hypertension, chronic high BP because his angiotensin level is too much, or you can inhibit this ACE enzyme. There are medicines which are known as ACE inhibitors. Okay, Ramipil, enalapril, these are known as ACE inhibitors. Or what you can do, this angiotensin 2 is binding to the receptor AT1 receptor present on this endothelial cell to constrict them, okay, to cause vasoconstriction. Can I block this receptor? So there are various drugs known as receptor blockers. Receptor blockers, angiotensin 2 receptor antagonists or blockers like telmisartan, olmesartan, candesartan, valsartan, irbesartan, all these sartan families. So they will block, and then angiotensin 2 can no longer bind to the endothelial cells and cannot cause vasoconstriction, and your BP will return to normal. So this is how you can intervene and save someone's life by, you can say, lowering BP also. Okay, so this is what I am telling you as a, if you become a cardiologist, okay, you can recommend these drugs to your patients, and that is a direct relation to your nephrology or kidney. So think how much they are related. Okay, you need to have a good concept of kidney, nephrology, RAAS system in order to treat someone who is showing high BP when you are checking his BP at your clinic. Suppose you have become a cardiologist then, right? So this is how you can treat patients. Now angiotensin 2 also does what? It also acts at the hypothalamus to increase sensation of thirst. That's why we feel very, very thirsty. Angiotensin 2 goes and binds to hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the thirst center, increases thirst. Now if it increases thirst, what will you do? You will go for drinking water. More water means blood volume will increase, and it has constricted blood vessel, increasing blood volume, so further increasing blood pressure. Just think of this regulation now. Okay, so this is again one more regulation. Also, angiotensin 2 does one more thing. Okay, causes release of vasopressin. Might have heard of vasopressin / antidiuretic hormone, which is stored in the neurohypophysis or posterior pituitary gland. Okay, posterior pituitary gland. Okay. Now, because of this release, what will happen? ADH will go and bind to the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, I'll explain to you the work of ADH later on. It induces the expression of aquaporin 2 channel and causes more and more water reabsorption. Okay, for now just know water reabsorption. I'll explain to you how this happens, okay, when we reach the counter current questions. Okay, so aquaporin 2 water reabsorption. So more and more water will be reabsorbed. Again, blood volume will increase because we will be urinating less and absorbing more water, or reabsorbing more water in the renal tubule, especially in the DCT. And that will lead to also in the, you can say, after DCT, something known as collecting duct. Here also will be causing reabsorption of water, AQP2 channels, aquaporin 2, and more blood volume will increase. Again, constriction, more blood volume, more BP. Okay, what more angiotensin can do? Okay, it can increase cardiac output. It can bind to the AT1 receptors on the cardiac muscle cells, and it can increase cardiac output, make cardio cells to pump more. In the long run, it can weaken the heart muscle and can cause cardiac hypertrophy. Okay. Increase in the size of heart muscle cells. Hypertrophy is known as, in NEET examination, increase in the size of cells. So here size of cardiomyocytes, thereby it will weaken the heart and can cause cardiomyopathy. Pathy means dysfunction. Cardiomyo means cardiomyocytes, cardiomyopathy. Okay, later on in your life. Okay. Next is aldosterone, which is given in that question. What is the role of aldosterone? It can have various effects. Okay, it can go and bind to the adrenal gland. Okay, once it binds to the adrenal gland, in the cortex of the adrenal gland, you have something known as three layers: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, then you have zona reticularis. It binds to the zona glomerulosa layer and causes the release of a mineralocorticoid hormone known as aldosterone. Okay. Aldosterone, it goes and binds to mostly the distal convoluted tubule and causes more reabsorption of sodium plus iron in the renal tubules. Sodium plus reabsorption will do what? If you cause sodium plus to get reabsorbed in the DCT, what will happen? Osmosis will increase, and via osmosis it will pull more and more water. More sodium, okay, more water. Again, blood volume increases, right? That's why in case of high BP, we are told to take less sodium diet, so that very less sodium is present in the filtrate, and therefore very less sodium is absorbed. Therefore, in turn, very less water will be reabsorbed and blood volume will remain less, and you will be having lesser blood volume. So even if constriction happens, the blood pressure will not spike or rise that much. Okay, that's why you are put in a low sodium diet and you are diagnosed with hypertension or high blood pressure. Okay, so this aldosterone will be induced, its secretion will be induced by angiotensinogen and will cause, you can say, blood volume increase. Okay, so that is that question. Here the question that you are solving: aldosterone is released, ADH is released, renin is released, that is blood volume increase. Only atrial natriuretic factor, okay, ANF, atrial natriuretic factor, okay. Number one use is blood, it will reduce blood pressure, okay. Atrial natriuretic factor or atrial natriuretic peptide, it is also known as, here in this question it is given factor, it is also known as ANP, okay. So it's a peptide hormone, atrial natriuretic peptide, okay. It is released by the atria of the cardia of the heart, okay, coded by NPPA gene, that is not in your course. Okay. So what it does is, okay, it is a very small single polypeptide protein, okay. Atrial natriuretic peptide. It's a very small polypeptide protein, okay, and when the heart rate increases, the heart will stretch. The stretching of atria again causes downstream signaling pathway and releases the atria of the heart. It releases this ANP, okay, which has three mechanisms. It reduces, you can say, so when the blood volume is reduced, okay, a decrease in blood volume will cause aldosterone release, ADH and renin, because blood vessel constriction will occur and BP reduction has happened due to blood volume release. So BP will need to be raised. But once you have very high BP, okay, then ANP is produced. Okay, why? Because it can do three things mostly. It can increase renal excretion of salt and water. Number one, ANP can increase, write down again, ANP can increase renal excretion of salt and water. Salt and water. Okay. It can also cause vasodilation, opposite of vasoconstriction, and reduce BP, vasodilation. And it can also increase vascular permeability. Okay. Means the blood vessels will become more permeable. Permeability. So this thing is not directly in your course, permeability. Okay. So we'll not go into the permeability factor. Okay. It is a very short-lived but potent, okay, peptide. Okay. It is released when GFR is too high to reduce GFR. Okay. When GFR is very high, okay, means then you need to reduce GFR by increasing, you can say, this side you need to increase the blood, you can say, or cause vasodilation, increase the diameter of the blood. Okay. And that time what you need to do is, the acute effects will also increase in GFR in the positive feedback loop, because once you increase the, you can say, blood, what is called diameter, blood vessel diameter, GFR will increase, more and more excretion will happen of sodium and water. Okay. And it will lead to decrease in blood volume and subsequent lowering of blood pressure. Okay, that is the way the ANP work. Okay. You have BNP also, but that is not in your course. That is brain-derived natriuretic peptide released by the ventricles. Okay, that is also there, released by the ventricles of the heart. Okay. Okay, biomolecule chapter you were asking. Okay. So next biotech class, like we had, I think Pratham attended it. Okay, that video is there. I think it has been published. You can go through it. I was teaching about this thing, the Fischer projection and the stereoisomerism. Okay, which is extremely needed to comprehend any kind of biomolecule for NEET also, for biotech also, and from the biological perspective also. Okay, because you will be having your L isomers. Yeah, I understood, no issues. So L isomer, you have D isomer, right? In your book only you will be seeing alpha D glucose. What is the meaning of alpha D? Beta D glucose, L amino acid or L glycine, L alanine, D alanine. So it is not just L and D. What is L and D? That is caused by stereoisomerism. So just go through the video. You can ask Pratham if you have any problem. If Pratham cannot explain, you can definitely ask me. Okay, you can ask me anytime on WhatsApp. I'll explain to you, and then we'll proceed forward with the, you can say, Fischer projection and the Hawat projection also. Okay, in the meanwhile only. Okay, so we can go through that in the next biotech class. Okay. So like this, we can solve like first question, second question. Now all of this now you can solve easily. Okay, second question, which of the following statements is incorrect? Okay, incorrect means must be incorrect. Oh sorry, which of the following statement is correct? So the correct statement is option number D directly. The ascending limb of loop of Henle is impermeable to water. Okay, and it is not only the ascending. Okay, here it is the thick ascending limb. Again you can see the NTA. It makes, if you want to challenge this question you can. Okay, here it is only given ascending, it is fine, but the thick ascending limb mainly is impermeable to water. Okay, so the thing is thick ascending limb and thin. Thin is squamous cell becomes, you can say, the thick ascending lume of the loop of Henle, okay, is directly impermeable to water. Okay. And you can say the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, if I tell you about it more, okay, so it maintains the extracellular fluid volume, okay, the thick ascending limb, okay, and the thin part, okay, you can say the thick ascending limb is responsible for almost, you can say, 30% of NaCl reabsorption in the nephron, okay, that is there, and you will have various problems if that doesn't happen also. And magnesium balance is also there, it is maintained, okay. And what makes it thin and what makes it thin, okay. So the thing is, this is made up of squamous epithelial cell, okay. So the thick ascending limb doesn't mean that it is 2 to 3 cell layer thick. It is just made up of, you can say, cuboidal epithelium, that's all. One thing I'll tell you this thing. It is only made up of cuboidal epithelium. That is the only reason why this one is thick, this one is thin. Because squamous cells, squamous epithelial cells will be, you can say, thinner than cuboidal. But this is also simple cuboidal also only, not stratified. This is also not stratified. So since the cells are thicker, this is known as thick ascending limb. Okay, that is the thing here. And most active in the absorption of sodium. Next question. So you might be knowing the answer, because PCT, once you go to PCT, you have the most absorption of sodium via your sodium glucose co-transporter. If you haven't learned that co-transporter thing, so have you learned about sodium glucose co-transporter in PCT? Sodium glucose, 2 sodium 1 glucose co-transporter. Have you learnt about it? Sodium glucose co-transporter in PCT. A co-transporter 2 it is known as. Simply you can call it sodium glucose co-transporter. Have you learnt about it? Sodium glucose co-transporter. Okay. So I'll tell you about that in the next class. Sodium glucose co-transporter, and also about the next part of the, you can say, acidity of urine. Because all these questions, if you don't know the concept, there is, like, it's useless to explain, like, impossible to explain the answer. Okay, so for first question only that much explanation was needed. Okay, so second question, third question we have been able to do. And you can see this one, question number 5. Which of the following does not favor the formation of large quantities of dilute urine? Okay, large quantity of dilute urine, question number 5. So dilute urine, caffeine can cause the dilute urine, ATL natriuretic factor will cause dilute urine, but here renin will not cause, because renin will cause angiotensin 2. Okay, angiotensin 2 will cause what? You can say reabsorption, ADH. Remember ADH angiotensin 2 pathway. So think of that concept. Angiotensin 2 renin will cause in the end in turn activate RAS pathway that will lead to angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 will affect the, you can say, brain, cause release of ADH from the posterior pituitary gland, and then ADH will cause water reabsorption in the DCT and the collecting duct via expression of aquaporin 2, and the urine will not be that dilute. Okay, fifth question will be option number A, renin. Okay, so like this you can put the concept that has been taught to you in the various questions of this worksheet only. So this is how the concepts work. Okay. Okay then. So I hope you were able to comprehend the lecture. In the next class we'll talk more in detail about the kidney, the transporters, and the blood colloid osmotic pressure, the, you can say, capsular hydrostatic pressure, glomerular blood osmotic pressure. We'll talk about those things and solve the questions side by side. Okay. Each question I will be explaining the entire concept to you, and then only we will be moving forward. Okay, so that your concepts remain crystal clear. Okay then, thanks a lot. Let's meet in the next